Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to the appointments part that we're going to go through now. We just want to come back to Dr. Bawa's question from the previous session. The question was what is happening if the admin part is not there. For this one, then please send an email to help@GoodX that we can just give you access. It's an access problem that we just need to give you access to. Okay. Now I'm just going to open the Learning Center again. With the previous session, we've done the introduction and the introduction, how to use your online learning center, how to request support, login into GoodX web, and also the overview of the GoodX diary. Now we're going to do the appointments. Now from here, we're going to have a look at book a new patient, book existing patients, how to configure booking types and statuses. We also did do this in the previous session. Book other appointments, repeat bookings, and then create a new debtor, add a new dependent, patient validation, make a patient inactive, extend a booking, cancel an appointment, and then move appointments and also the theatre bookings. Okay. So the first thing is Migrant Central. Now Migrant Central is an extra feature that GoodX have. You can decide on if you want to use the kiosk. Now the kiosk is a thing that you can put in front of your reception, and the patient can create his file electronically without that the reception needs to create a file. Now what is really nice is that my kiosk will guide you to go through the correct processes to open the file. It's really user friendly, so you put it, especially when you have a lot of long queues at reception and you don't want to appoint a new reception lady or just for some time that it's really busy, the patients can create their own file. Now with that, the kiosk will guide you to go through a certain process, put in the main members information, put the patient information, or otherwise import it from the medical aid, and then it will tell you, please put your ID. At the back it has a nice little box that you can put your ID on, and then it will take a picture of it and save it onto your file, and it will ask you put a medical aid card. So it guides you what is the next step. Now you can even put your terms and conditions of your practice. You can put on the Migrant Central, and the patient can sign electronically that they accept all the terms and conditions. While they are signing electronically on the kiosk, the system will take a picture of the person who is signing the terms and conditions and also save it on the system. You also will have face recognition. So if you have the ID photo on your system, or any photo of the patient the patient was there previously, or even from their ID that they just scanned, the system will have a look and see if it's the same person from the photo that the person is standing now in front of the computer. Then also from Migrant Central, from there, if the patient created his own electronic file, they can do it on their phone with the normal phones. They can do it on the phone, and they can create their file at home already. So when you use Migrant Central, when you make a booking, a SMS will be sent out to the patient and tell them, okay, this is when you must be at this practice for your appointment. Please fill in the form so long. When the patient comes to your practice, the file is already created on your system. Now what is nice, when the patient steps in or he uses the My Kiosk, then you will get an option to import it from Migrant Central, and then all the information that patient had filled in will show on your screen, and you can decide on which information do you want to import and which one not. If you already have a file of this patient on your system, this kiosk or Migrant Central will show you the differences that you have on your system and what Migrant Central is saying of this patient or the main member's information. You can decide if you want to update your data or do you want to keep your data as it is. Also, you will have the option to do online bookings. You can get a URL and you can put it onto your website as a button, and the patient can click on that to open the online bookings. You have different types of options to do online bookings with. Say for instance, you don't want the patients to see all your available time slots. You can set it up just to see the patient type in the time and the date he wants to have an appointment, and the system will just tell him, no, sorry, we don't have an open time slot for that time. Here is some other suggestions that you can take. Or you can show all your open time slots for the patients and they can choose which one do they want to, and the booking will appear on your diary, and you can set it up that it says it's an online booking, that you know the patient didn't phone in. With Migrant Central, if you're using it, what is really nice, we will come to that part with the clinical part, and the patient can pay immediately from the app on his phone. So when he's in your practice, you do the invoice, and immediately the patient can see on his phone through the app that this is the amount he is owing, and he can say, yes, please pay, and then EFT will be done. From Migrant Central, we also provide the kiosk. So if you're not using the kiosk as now, you can send an email to help@GoodX and we can give you a quotation on a kiosk. So the kiosk is in a frame that you can put onto your desk, and that it can't be stolen, and also it's a tablet with a keyboard and the camera that is included. Now from here we're going to say book new patient. We're going to go back to GoodX web. Now the difference between, I'm going to show you on the whiteboard, we have different types of appointments. We have a new patient, we have an existing patient, and we have other bookings and also emergencies. Now on a new patient is a patient that doesn't have an electronic file yet at your practice. Now with a new patient, you don't want to create, when the patient phones in and he wants to make an appointment, you don't want to create an electronic file yet for this patient, because it's not 100% guaranteed that this patient is going to come for his appointment. Sometimes you get patients that phones in, ask you, do you have an appointment for tomorrow? You say yes, only at 11 o'clock, and he phones somebody and he says to you, yes, please make a booking for me. Then he phones the other practice and asks them, do you have an open appointment? And they can help him 10 o'clock. They will cancel you, phone back and cancel. Now, with that, you already created a file. Now, you don't want to do that, because then you have all of this data on your system that you're not using. Now, with the new patient, we're going to take this away. We're going to click on the diary. Double click on the correct time slot. So let's make it for 10:45. The patient phones in and asks you, yes, I was never there before, I don't have electronic file. Then you double click and you say, yes, it's going to be in Dr. Test Hospital. So you choose the correct diary, and then you choose the type. So you ask the patient, are you coming for a consultation? Yes, I'm coming for a consultation. Say for instance, you have different types of procedures. For instance, dentists, they have crowns and pulling the teeth extractions. Then you can put it on as an extraction, or the patient must get a crown, or is it a normal consultation? What different types do you have, the procedures that you have? Then you have, okay, the patient is booked. If you're working with locations, you can type the location in. It will take the date and the time that you have double clicked on, and with the consultation, it is linked to a 30 minutes duration. Now, we're going to leave this like that. You choose the treating doctor. If you have more than one, you choose the correct one by clicking, and then show you, if you go a little bit back, the list of the doctors will open. You click on it, the correct one. Here you can type in a reason why the patient wants to have a booking. This will assist the doctor when the patient comes on the diary, you can immediately say, oh, okay, this patient thinks he has flu, he wants to see the doctor, or he has really bad pain. Immediately you know what type you're going to be able to assist faster. If you have an open booking, you can change the booking and phone the patient. Okay, he has extreme pain. The 9 o'clock has cancelled. Phone the patient, tell him, okay, yes, do you want to come at 9 o'clock rather than 10:45? Okay, so the reason can assist you in managing your practice a little bit better. Then the service center is really important. Now the service center is also linked to the medical aid. For instance, if you see the patient in a room for the same procedure, you're allowed to ask a certain type of procedure codes, and you're allowed to ask a certain type of amount. Then if you see the patient in the hospital, you're allowed to ask more funds because it's in the hospital for certain procedures. It's really important that the invoice is done on the correct service center, that the medical aid knows was the patient seen in the rooms, or was the patient seen in hospital? Where was the patient treated? We're going to say rooms for this example. Now on this, you're going to say the debtor detail. Now the red stars indicate which fields is compulsory. Now also in this, you do have the option that you can choose your own compulsory fields on these pages. Now you can set up your own ones. We will also on a little bit later through the settings we will show you. But now with our setup, the three fields that is compulsory is the name, the surname, and the cell phone number. It's really important that you know who that you speak to, and a cell phone number, for instance, if you want to move the patient's booking, or otherwise the patient doesn't show up and you want to phone the patient or send an email, a SMS to the patient the previous day to confirm and tell him, yes, this is when you have to come. And also the cell phone number is important for Migrant Central if you're going to send SMS to the patient to confirm his booking with him. Now we're going to type in, so let's make it test. The name of the patient, sorry, let's try again. Okay, the surname, and we're going to give the patient the cell phone number. Now all of this information is not necessary right now because you're on the phone with a new patient and maybe the patient doesn't have all this information. Then you can tell the patient, please bring your medical aid card with you when you come. Or if it's a private patient, you can say it's not a normal medical aid patient, but it's a private patient. Okay. Then it's not going to ask you for medical aid information. Now from here, if you want to and you decide it is a compulsory field, you can type in the ID number and the email addresses, and you can immediately put in the medical aid options that you have. And if you do use the medical aid option at this stage, you can also do a validation and see if the patient does have enough funds. Otherwise, you can immediately tell the patient, because you're on Discovery, for instance, you need to bring 300 Rand with you for your first consultation at our practice. So this is all information. The more information, always the better, because at this stage, the electronic file is not going to be created. Then you have the patient details. Now the first details is your debtor details. Now the debtor details is normally your main member, or otherwise the person who is responsible for this account. Then you have your patient details, and in some cases the patient and the main member is not the same person. The main member can be the mother and the patient details can be the child or the husband. It doesn't, depending on who the patient will be. Now if you don't type in anything in here at this stage and you just say save, it's going to automatically take the main member's information and put it as the patient also. Now you will see if we click on this, on the booking, there is none of this is open yet. It doesn't have a clinical history. You can't click on the invoice, you can't click on the receipt, you can't even do clinical notes or go to account details. Only option that is available is the debtor add. Now, the important part here, the patient's file is not created yet. So it's only a placekeeper that you can't book somebody else on this appointment, or that you just know, because you can do double bookings, that you know, okay, but this patient is coming in from 9:45 until 11, until 11:15. So it's important that you understand that the difference. So when the patient comes into your practice, you're going to click and you're going to say arrive. The first thing that you're going to do, change the status, and then you're going to say debtor add. Now from here, the debtor add screen will open, and you will see here the information that you did put in the first screen will immediately pull in. Now the two options that you have also here is you can import the debtor, because now you have his medical aid card or in medical aid details. So you click on import, then you can decide, do you want to import it from My Grand Central, or do you want to import it from the medical aid. Now if you say My Grand Central, the list, if he shared his information with your practice or created it on the kiosk, the files that you have not yet imported will be lying here, and you can click and say import. Otherwise, you can use the medical aid option. You type in the medical aid information of the patient and you choose it. Then if you type in the option, if you don't know the option, choose the most applicable one, for instance, comprehensive, classic, acute. You will see if you use discovery, only discovery medical aid options will be visible. If you, let's say, we're going to say best med, you will see only best med options will be then available. Let's type this one. Then type in the medical aid number, and then you say import. So when you say import, a new screen will open. Unfortunately, I can't show you on this test one, but the screen will open with all the information that a medical aid has on this patient, or the main member, and on all the dependents on the file. So if the patient has a mother-in-law, and also his wife, and he has 3 children, for instance, you can import all of that information into your system, or you can choose which information, which patient's information do you want to import into your system. Okay. If you don't want to use the import function, then you can type in all the information. And also please remember that not all the medical aids has the import function. Most of them do have an import function. And if there is no import function available on that medical aid, the system will tell you, no, sorry, we can't import this medical aid file. And then there is some information. Some medical aids give you a lot of information, other medical aids give you only a little information, and you must fill in the other information that you didn't receive from the medical aid. Now we're going to go through all the different fields. The data number will automatically be created when you say save, and then you have the data file number. It's an extra number that you can use on GoodX, and from here you can, if you have a hard copy filing system, you can put in that hard copy file number. You can put in on this data file number, and when the patient comes in the future, you immediately know that here we have you take the file number and you go to the cabinet, and then you go and get that file. Because some clients don't file their filing system according to alphabetic orders or to a certain number, and that is why we have the file number. Okay. Now, the referring doctor is really important on the file, because say for instance, depending on your speciality, you will need to put in a referring doctor. Now, that is the doctor or the medical practitioner that referred the patient to you. Now, say for instance, you're a pathology, you need a GP, for instance, that the patient was referred by, otherwise you're not allowed to do the bloods on this patient. Or if you're a specialist and you're taking out tongue cells of children, you need a letter from the GP practice that tells you, okay, yes, the child did have so many tonsillitis in the last 6 months. Please take out this child's tongue cells. So then you will need to send a referring doctor information through to the medical aid. Otherwise, it's not going to be paid. Now, from here, you can also, again, if you did do it incorrectly at the beginning, then you can choose the rooms or the hospital here. You type in the first names of the patient, of the main member, we are busy with the main member, or the person who is responsible for the account. You can type in here the full names. It's important that you put in the full names, otherwise the medical aid is also going to reject, because he's going to tell you, no, the information is incorrect. You type in the surname, and then you have three options. You have a RSA ID, you have a passport, and you have other. Now, when you say RSA ID, the system is going to try and do a validation on the ID number that you're going to put in. Also, if the system can see if it's a female or a male from the ID number, it will definitely put in then the female or the male part. And if it's a passport and it's not a South African citizen, then you choose passport, or otherwise other if it's a total other number. So for instance, it's a baby that doesn't have an ID number yet, you will choose other. Then here you type in the ID number. If you don't have an ID number, luckily a child hopefully can't be the main member, but all of this is the same on the patient side. Okay, so you type in the ID number. Now, on this ID number, you can't find the gender, then we choose the gender, female or male, depending on the main member's information. Then you choose if it's a miss, is it a doctor, is it a professor. The initials will calculate from the first name field. If this initials is incorrect, please check your first name field. Then you have your cell phone number, your home telephone number, work telephone number, and email. Now, the email is also important, because if you want to send emails out of GoodX, then the email address must be there. There is certain checks of GoodX that the system will check. For instance, is there an @ sign? Is it a .com or a .co.za? So there is some checks on the email address if the address is valid. Now, this language, we only have it in English and Afrikaans, so you must tell the system what language is the patient. Now, all of the communication from GoodX to the patient or to the main member will go through with this type of language. If your SMSs and emails is set up for multiple languages, Afrikaans and English, then you can send say for instance, it's an English patient, you can send all the communication in English or otherwise Afrikaans, depending on the setting here. Now, the different types of files that you're opening, you have your normal, and that's your medical aid patient. Then you have your private patient that doesn't have a medical aid, and then you have your IODs, and that's your injury on duty patients. Now, if you have to claim back from workman's compensation for the patient injury, then you're going to choose IOD. Now, what is important is to choosing the correct type. Otherwise, the fields that is necessary to open the file is not going to be correct. We've chosen now IOD, for instance. Now you will see here is an extra field that says injury description, date of injury, and the claim number, of course. Now, if I go back to a normal patient, you will see there is the medical aid details that we have to fill in. And if we say private patient, for instance, it automatically takes the medical aid option as private and the medical aid number as 00, and it takes away the plan. Now we're going to use this one as a normal patient, medical aid patient, to create this patient's file. Now, also what is important that you choose the correct medical aid is because the medical aid is linked to a price list, and also the plan is linked to a price list. There is different price lists for each plan, for instance, depending on the medical aid, and also if you have private rates, you can put on the private, you can send the private rates to us and we can import it to the private patient, and then when you choose the patient type as a private patient, we can then charge the correct tariffs. You don't have to worry about that. Then we have, we're going to search for discovery, for instance. We have the medical aid options. Then you type in the medical aid number. Now the employer field is also important that you use it, because say for instance this patient disappeared and you can't get the money out of the medical aid says now the patient must pay for it, then you can start phoning the employer to try and get hold of this patient, to try and get your money. Now then also you have your next of kin. Try to put in as much information as possible. In the future, you're going to need all of this information, and some functions in the system, like the SMSs and the emails, is not going to work properly if you don't have an email address or a cell phone number for the patient. Now, the next of kin is also a handy part. Say, for instance, the patient starts dying inside your practice and you don't even have somebody to phone, you can look at the next of kin field to see, oh, but yes, I must phone this person to come and assist us. Okay. Then the physical address, it's linked to Google Maps. If you start typing in, it's going to show you, as on Google Maps, the correct address. We're going to choose this one. And it fills in the latitude and the longitude, and it will fill in the country and so on for you. And also it will fill in the postal code. Now, if the postal address is the same as the physical address, you just click on duplicate physical address and all of the information will be filled in. If it's not the same, you click here and you type it in. Okay. Then we have the default diary to link to. Now, here, this is a pre-set up function that we can immediately, any bookings is always going to be done on, say for instance, Dr. T's room or otherwise the Dr. Hospital room, depending on how many diaries do you have. Okay. Now, we've typed in all the information of the debtor or the main member, and if the first patient that you're going to see on this file is the debtor, you click on duplicate debtor. All the information that he could have found on the debtor information is going to copy to the patient side. Now, it's your choice if you only want to open the patient. Say, for instance, you are a medical practitioner that only works with old people. You're not going to, if the patient comes in and on the medical aid, he has a lot of dependents, children, you're not going to import or create that children's information because you're never going to see that patient, children. But say for instance you're a GP or a dentist, and the possibility that that patient, the main member or the other patient, is going to come back to your practice and bringing some other dependents on his medical aid to you, it's really good. Now, it's really nice if that patient comes back or that main member comes back to your practice and says, yes, I did have my one child here last week, now it's the other child that is sick, can you please help this child? You already have all of the patient's information when you created the first file. Now, when the patient steps into your practice and they was there last week with one of the children, sometimes some patients get a little bit frustrated if they have to wait some more to create now the new child's information, and so it's nice if you import everything immediately when you create a file, or otherwise create all the dependents on the medical aid. But again, it depends on how do you want to work in your practice. Now, for instance, we've created the main member as our patient in this case, or otherwise we can keep the main member's information as the first one, and then we say add new patient to create a second one. So you just click on the correct one that is there for the appointment. Now let's make this one child, and we say GoodX. It doesn't have a ID yet. And the gender is, say for instance, male. The patient doesn't have a cell phone number because he's still a child, hopefully. And then we're going to say here, is it a child, stepchild, adopted child? Is it a parent? So you're going to say child, date of birth, then you fill in, and you will see if it can't get it from the ID number, it will show year, month, date, and then you can choose it from the from the calendar. So let's say there. And then the patient doesn't have an email address, and also again you can link it to other diary if it's not the diary that you're on. If the patient has an other address than the main member, you can fill this in. Now if you need another one, you can say again add new patient. So, and everyone, say for instance the main member has 10 patients on his medical aid, you're going to create all 10, or otherwise just create the ones that you want to create. Now also on this screen you can add a photo. So if you click on the photo of the patient, you can use your camera, or otherwise you can upload from a file, or you can upload from an external device. Now if your phone is linked to, or a tablet is linked to GoodX, you can take the photo and then it will upload to this file when you choose it, and it will delete it automatically from your device. Now the reason for that is also the POPI Act. You are not allowed to keep patients' photos, or you will see also we have the clinical, when we come to the clinical part, you will see there we also have options that you can take pictures of the patient's wounds, and then you're not allowed to keep that on your personal phone, and then when you upload it to GoodX, it will automatically delete it from the device that you have taken it and just keep it on the system. Now you can here take the camera, or otherwise you can upload it from a file. We're going to say save, and then we have an option that we say print debtor cover sheet. Now on this one, if it opens, you can also put in here your terms and conditions of your practice. It's just if you're not paperless and you want to print this out, that the patient can sign and say, yes, all of my information is correct that you have on your system. Thank you. You can sign it, and they can put it. You can put it into your hard copy file. Okay, we're going to close it. And then if you work with patient labels, you can print here a patient label and put it onto the file, or send it with the patient to either consultation room or to the theatre. Now we're going to, if you say close, we're going to go out. We're going to say save yes. If there's problems on the file, the system is going to warn you and tell you, yes, there are problems. So please correct this or fill this in. This wasn't completed yet, or so on. Now you will see the color of the booking also has changed, that this is a debtor now. You will see all of this functions is also available for you now, and now it says debtor edit. So say for instance you did make a mistake on the patient's file, you can click on debtor edit, and you can edit all of the information. Make sure when you edit the patient information, you click on the correct patient to edit the patient information. Now from also, when say for instance one of the patients is not with the medical aid anymore, or on this main member's account anymore, you can click on it and you can say debtor edit, and you can say delete. So if we say delete, they're going to ask us an option and say deceased or as his own medical aid now. So say for instance the child has grown and is 21 years old, he needs to go and get his own medical aid, then you can go and say own medical aid and say okay. Now you will see it pulls a red line through it, and you won't be able to choose it anymore for bookings. If you want to reactivate it because you made a mistake, you click on the green mark, and then it will be reactivated. Okay, so we're going to say save. Is there any questions on how to open a new patient or new debtor? To go to the next one, we have the existing patient. That is really, now it's the easy part, and the quickest part to open to make a booking is for a patient that is already on your system. So you just the patient that's phoned in and say now he wants to have an appointment at 12, we double click and we say, okay, yes, it's a Dr. Test Hospital, it's a consultation that we have to do. We say yes, it's a book patient, all of that information is correct. We say the patient has pain, and then from here you can click on the debtor or the patient. What information must be searched? So you have the main member's information. We're going to search from there. It will give you the options, all the patients that detail. You can search on ID number, surname. You can search on the name, on the medical aid number. It doesn't matter. Any information that you want to search on. Then you can say, for instance, let's take test GoodX. All of the information will be pulled in. You will see here is 2 patients on this file. We have the child GoodX male and we also have the test GoodX female. So you click on the correct one that is going to come for the appointment. You just confirm, okay, yes, are all of this information still correct? And you say save. There the booking is. Ready for you, as easy as that, and it's really quick. Now, when the patient steps into your practice, you click on it and you say arrive, that you know the patient has arrived. And then when you're finished with the file, because say for instance, the patient is standing in front of you and has outstanding money, you ask them, okay, please pay for it. Or otherwise, the patient tells you, okay, yes, but my telephone number has changed. Can you please change it on the system? You click on data edit. You change the cell phone number on the patient's side, and then you say save again. And when the patient is ready for the doctor, you have completed all your paperwork. If they have to pay a deposit, then or an admin fee, you let the patient pay immediately. And when the patient is ready for the doctor, you click on ready. Now, what is nice now, say for instance, the doctor only wants to see all the patient that is ready. You can set it up, and then the doctor in the consultation room can see, oh, but this one is ready for me. Then you don't have to every time look out of the door and say, okay, is there anybody waiting for me? Can I assist anybody? Or that a reception lady runs to the doctor every time and tells him, okay, this patient is ready, you can see this patient. Now you can, if you want to, depending on how you want to work in your practice, you can give the file to the patient and then tell them, okay, please sit, the doctor will call you. The doctor can see which patient is ready for him. And then he can open the door and say, can a GoodX test please come in? And he can give his file to the doctor. So the doctor, there's no extra communication that must happen from the reception to when the doctor must see the patient. Now, when the patient is ready, okay, so we're going to, is there any questions on book a new patient or otherwise book an existing patient, or how to create a patient's file? Okay, we're going to go on then to the other bookings. Now, say for instance, you are out of office for the whole afternoon. You can say from 1 o'clock, I'm going to be out of office. We're going to click on 1 o'clock. We're going to say choose out of office from 1 until the duration, depending on how was it set up. And we're going to say, you can give a reason, why are you out of office? You have a personal problem, for instance, and you say save. The out of office will be then booked and then personal options. If you click on the out of office, you can see here it's not billable. If you can remember in the introduction we have done, there was options that you can say if this type of booking is billable or not. So now you can see it's not billable. All of that extra functions that you can say, for instance, send an download an invoice or send SMSs or emails or anything, edit the patient's information, will not be available on this file because it's not linked to a patient. Okay. Now you can set up your own ones and say, for instance, you have reps that you need to see, or you have classes that you must attend. You can all put it onto your diary, and you can make it that you're not in the office or that you're busy with a meeting, and from there the personnel that makes the bookings immediately can see where you are and how to manage the practice correctly. Okay. I just want to look at the questions. If you can just give me a few seconds. To come back to Dr. Bow, your question that you can't edit the patient or the information, maybe it's linked to the incorrect. So let's see if we click on it and we say debtor edit, but you can't say debtor edit. So just double click on the booking and see to which status the appointment is done. And also the important thing is that the consultation is the type is the correct one, and it's not the out of office or one that is not billable, for instance. That is an option that you can have a look at, or otherwise maybe the appointment is deleted. That can be also the other problem that you maybe will have. So let's say, for instance, I'm going to show you an example now. Let's take this one, and this patient didn't arrive, so we're going to, I'm lying, that one we already said the patient has arrived. Let's take this one, the patient didn't arrive. We double click and we want to take it off the diary because the patient didn't arrive. Now we're going to say delete. Are you sure you want to delete this booking? Okay, yes. Now it's gone, but it's not gone. Remember in the introduction we went through, you have your display options, and if you want to see all the bookings that is cancelled, you click on show all bookings and it will pull a red line through it to show you that booking was cancelled. But still you can use the time slot. If you don't want to see all the cancelled bookings, you just click on display options again and say show active bookings. Okay. Now the other thing is to make an emergency booking. You can click on the time slot and you can click on the drop down box and say emergency. This patient will already be arrived. You'll see the status doesn't say booked, but it says arrived, because most of the emergencies the patient will come into your practice and then you will see, oh, it's an emergency, and then you can treat the patient immediately, or the ambulance will phone you and tell you, okay, we're on our way with this patient. Now, you can still from here, you can say booked and it will go back to booked, depending on you. Then you can search for the patient, or otherwise, if you don't have any information, you can just type in here name and surname, or you can say Don Joe, because you don't know the patient's name or surname. The patient can't speak to you. At that stage, when the patient comes in or somebody brings in the patient, you can just say John Doe and then put it onto your diary, because you need to put it onto your diary. Otherwise, if you have more than one reception personnel and they don't know about the emergency, they're going to try and book some patients for you. So let's take a test one, and we're going to say yes, it's an emergency, and we say save. Now you will see it turned red depending on your color, how did you set it up, and it will show you the patient is arrived and it is an emergency. Okay. Say for instance, also we have repeat bookings. This patient comes out of the doctor's treating room, and you double click and it says, okay, yes, but the doctor wants to see me 3 times more in the next, say for instance, in the next 3 weeks. You can say repeat booking. You choose how do the doctor wants to see this patient. He wants to see him weekly. You say yes on Mondays and Tuesdays, to date until the end of the month, and you say save. You say save. If you go to next week, it will make the booking. Let's go on. There is the booking made, and also there, because we have chosen on Mondays and Tuesdays until the last day of the month. There again. Okay, to go back to now, we say now. So that's especially for chronic conditions, or if the patient must get a lot of follow-up, you can immediately create these bookings for him and don't have to worry about the booking in the future. I just want to see if we've covered everything in this confirmation of booking, book other appointments, repeat booking, create a new debtor, add new dependents, make a patient inactive. Okay, so we still need to extend the booking. So say for instance, this emergency is going to take longer than only 15 minutes. You can double click on it and you can say the duration must go on till 12 o'clock. 12, and then you say save. So now you have extended the booking. Now if you make, like say for instance, we want to make it till 1, it's going to warn you and tell you, but this is overlapping with other bookings. If you click on the plus sign, it will show you what other booking it's overlapping with. You can here from delete the other booking if you want to delete the other booking. Otherwise, you can just say save, and it will show you that you have double bookings. There is the other one. Sorry, close. There at the back is the other one, and then you have your emergency that has been extended. Now, if you want to click there, you can phone this patient, for instance, and tell the patient, sorry, we are running late. Can you come and half an hour later, please? And then the patient tells you, for instance, now I can come tomorrow and not today anymore if you're going to be a little bit late. You can click on the booking. You can say Control C on your diary, and then go to tomorrow, to the correct time slot, and Control V. The booking screen will open again and you say save. So now you have copied the appointment from yesterday to today, but because we've copied, it's going to be still on today's diary. So now you have a choice, or you can delete this booking and say okay. So because this is a repeated booking, because we've done a repeat on this one, it's going to ask you, is it only for this booking, or do you want to delete all of the bookings that was made on this one? So we're going to say only for this booking, and we're going to delete this one. But say for instance, you want to take this booking, you can also, if you want to delete it immediately, you can say Control X, and then you go to tomorrow, and you can say Control V to paste it. Then it will automatically delete it from the other one. Okay? We did do the cancel bookings. Move appointments is a Control X and a Control V. Then one of the important parts, to do a validation. The system will try and do automatic validation on the patient, but if it says benefits could not be validated, that means there's something wrong with the validation. You can double click on the booking. You can say edit debtor, and here you can say valid benefit check selected patient. Now if you click on it, it will immediately tell you what's wrong with the patient's file. Member number must be 9 digits long, member number must be 9 digits long, benefits could not be validated. So the reason why we couldn't validate this one is because we're only typing 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's not a valid member, the member number is not valid. So it's important that you then correct it, save and do another validation until all of the information is correct and the patient's file can be validated before you see the patient. Okay. Do you have any questions about the appointments and the diary or how to create a patient's file? Do somebody work with theatres? We have a theatre part on the system that you create a theatre list. So you indicate, say for instance, the doctor is going to go to theatre on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You can create a theatre list on the system. You're going to say settings, make sure that you are ticked for theatre. Activate theatre bookings on diary is ticked on. You say save. And then when you go onto your bookings, sorry. I just want to see where it is. Consultation. I'm struggling to get it on the test system now. We did put it on. I just want to see. Okay, here is the option now. Let me just refresh. Okay, now let's go to tomorrow. Otherwise, we're going to have a lot of duplicate bookings. No, not tomorrow. Let's go to Monday. So we're going to say hospital. Theatre management. Here we're going to create our theatre list, your theatre session. You're going to say, for instance, add theatre list. You're going to choose the correct diary that the theatre list must be created, on which date, from what time are you going to be in the theatre, until what time are you going to be in the theatre. Say, for instance, till 10 o'clock. Here you can say in which hospital are you going to be in. Let's say South Afrikaans Hospital, for instance. If you're working with referring doctors, you can put in the referring doctors there. And also if you're working with assistants that need to assist you in the theatre, you can put it in there. Now we're going to say complete first, because you're completed. And then we're going to say, because we say completed, it already saved the theatre for us. Now we say close. Do you have unsaved changes? Do you want to exit anyway? No. Reopen, save. Get the newest data. Yes. Okay. So now we have the theatre booking, the theatre session. From here you can add patients now. Now if we go back to the diary on the 11th, let's refresh. It's going to show here, on the test one, it doesn't work a little bit well. We're going to have a look at this as soon as possible. But it's supposed to show you from 8 till 10 that it turns blue. Then when you add a patient, the patient will be allocated as a theatre booking, and you can just put on the patient there. It's the CTP4 codes and all of that stuff. We're going to look at it in the next session again to see if we can get this working while we are taking a break. Okay. Is there any other questions around the appointments? We're going to take a 10-minute break again, and then we're going to start with the diary administration. Thank you.